Well, hello, hello, hello. If you've landed here, you've landed on Let's Talk News, and I'm your host, Leticia Remauro. Thank you for joining me on this Tuesday. We have a lot to talk about, don't we? A little early because I panicked. I was kind of asleep at the wheel and I hit the button a little early. So um, we'll get everybody caught up in a minute. Hi, Kevin Wall from the other side of the world, but the same side of the issues. Yes, rest in peace, Lindsey Graham. He was my senator. Not my favorite senator. My favorite senator is Tim Scott, but Lindsey leaves a legacy for sure. Hello, aloha, Robert Santillian. How are you? What's going on in Hawaii? You guys, Kevin, you need to tell me what's going on in Australia because we don't always get the news in Australia. It seems like the Australian stations talk more about American news than we get here on Australian news. Sky News, I think, right, is Australian. They talk a lot about America. So tell me, what's going on in Australia? I mean, I know it's winter-ish, and but what's the government looking like over there? What's going on? Hello, Francine. Good to have you. Good to have you. So, over the weekend, our Senator Lindsey Graham died in the same condition that killed John Ritter. Very sudden heart or very sudden issue. Devastating to a lot of people. He was, oops, what happened? He was very well loved in South Carolina. Um, yeah, very well loved in South Carolina. I know what happened. I think, though, I hate doing that because my arms look horrible on camera when I do that. As I'm losing weight, I'm getting old lady arms, even though I lift like 50-pound bales of hay. At any rate, let's go back. Forget my arms. Let's talk about Lindsey Graham. Yeah, so he was loved in South Carolina. He was around for a long, long time. Um, I I didn't love all of his politics. Let's put it that way. But I did vote for him in the primary because Mark Lynch is a Democrat in Republican clothing here, and we have a lot of that. You have to watch out in South Carolina about that because. This is one of those open primary states, so Democrats can vote in Republican primaries and Republicans can vote in Democrat primaries. You choose when you get to the polls who you vote for, or which primary you're going to vote for. Um, but at any rate, I don't know why this keeps happening. Okay, so Mark Lynch was his opponent. I voted for Graham because I know how important it is that we keep the seat. I am sorry he is passed. I thought that he was a gentleman and a good man and a moral man. I just did not like his flip flopping on Trump in 2016 and 2020. And he was known to capitulate. He was known to play both sides. He was known to make deals, and I'm fine with that. I like people who make deals, but I don't like people who flip flop. I like people who might change their mind because somebody convinced them of something, but not somebody who bad Trump, good Trump, bad Trump, good Trump. You know what I mean? And that's what he did. He was really jumped on the bandwagon when it came to the impeachments. I didn't like that at all. We are joined by Karen. How are you, Karen? Angela Ricca, Andrew Dorman, Kevin Young, Lorraine Scanny. Good to have you. Rush dubbed him Lindsey Gramnesty. Yeah, excellent. And that's really what. Yeah, that's who he was. But I got to tell you something. The fact that Trump and McMaster's got together and decided to appoint Darline in Lindsey's place, in my opinion, worst move ever. Wasted five months of somebody being in the office already, getting their toes wet in the office, wasted that opportunity. I was not for Pamela Evitt to be our governor, but I am for her to be the senator. I think she's much more suited for the Senate than governor. She's a good negotiator, and governor for the state of South Carolina, you need somebody tougher. You need a Sarah Huckabee Sanders here, not a Pam Evitt. Pam Evitt, like Lindsey, genteel, can make deals. She's far more suited for the Senate. And I think that they should have appointed her. That would have been the smart move. To put the sister in was no good. And yes, we're probably going to have a crowded field of people who are going to run, but we've got a snap election. I think it's either 4th or the 11th. I can't remember which day it is. And then with a runoff on the 25th. But I think Evitt would have been the right one, in my opinion. I think she's going to win the primary, the snap election, and I think she would have been the best. Ballot boxes are popping here. It's against the law if they place on private property. If the owner complains, it's also against the law if they are on county property, if enough people send in complaints. Well, sending in complaints is a great hold on a second. I don't know what is going on here. Let's see. I think I put it the wrong way. All right. Excuse my fat arms. Complaints work. Writing complaints makes a lot of sense. People should do that. We need to be vocal. We absolutely do. Good evening, Tammy Morton and Ramon. Good to have you. Okay, so let's hear what's going on with Lindsey Graham.
Details this morning about the final moments of Senator Lindsey Graham's life and what may have been his final phone call. Senator Tommy Tuberville revealing that it was his former scheduler who received that call from Graham.
Called basically, said, listen, I'm having chest pains. I need to do something. Said, did you call 911? And he goes, no, that's the reason I called you. And so she called 911.
The scheduler, who is currently working for Graham, called 911. By the time she got to his house, paramedics had already arrived, but they were too late. Now the investigation into his death is ramping up. More than a dozen FBI agents spent 2 hours at Graham's D.C. home. Two law enforcement sources familiar with the scene tell NBC News that FBI agents were there out of an abundance of caution and that there was no evidence to suggest foul play was involved in his death. Later today, Graham's sister, Darline Graham Nordone, will take the oath of office to fill out her brother's term set to end in January, appointed by South Carolina's governor with President Trump's endorsement.
This is what Lindsey would have wanted.
Graham and his younger sister have always had a close relationship. He legally adopted her when she was 13 years old, after both their parents passed away.
Lindsey has always been there for me, and now I will be there for him.
She has never held elected office and is not expected to run for the seat in the fall. Instead, a wide group of Republicans are considering a run in the snap primary this August. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Graham's desk in the chamber adorned with white roses. A makeshift memorial has appeared in front of his Capitol Hill office. And Graham's colleagues, both Republican and Democrat, are trying to come to grips with his shocking loss.
And we had a good working relationship between us. No cheap shots, no stabs in the back.
I will miss Lindsey's friendship, Mr. President, more than I can say. We will laugh together again. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Senator John Thune there getting choked up. Ryan, what's the latest on funeral arrangements for Senator Graham?
Well, Greg, Senator Thune says that he's already spoken with Graham's sister and the governor of South Carolina about services. He's also indicated that there are discussions on whether the senator will lie in state at the U.S. Capitol, but these are still in the early stages of planning.
So the funeral is going to be a spectacle. I was supposed to go to the GOP barbecue today, but we didn't go because of rain. And honestly, I figured it was going to be a spectacle with Graham dead. I didn't expect to see a lot of the big wigs. So, but the funeral is going to be big. Ramon says Nancy Mace is going after Graham's seat. Yes, she is. And she actually said she thought it was a great idea that Graham's sister was appointed, which tells me that, why I'm not voting for Nancy Mace. She's stupid. Maybe Mitch and Lindsey are at Gitmo. Well, I don't know where Mitch is. Mitch is in the hospital. He needs to go. We have issues. We have with the razor thin margin. We have issues, but we absolutely need to get rid of Mitch McConnell. Mace the mess, absolutely. Mace should stay out of the Senate race and her gubernatorial primary election. She lost the gubernatorial, right? And she did terribly, as a matter of fact. Also, nobody knows her. She thinks she's known, but nobody really knows her. Abbott is the one. As I said, I didn't care for her as a gubernatorial candidate because I think you need to have some balls, and I think that you need to really stand up to the Democrats in the state legislature, because there's so many Northerners in South Carolina and they have so much money that it's easy to be corrupted. And McMaster's is a good old boy. McMaster's wasn't going to let anybody turn his head, but after Nikki Haley, she gutted the state. She turned it on its ear, and she stripped it of lots of things that made it South Carolina, that made it unique, and opened the doors for the culture of South Carolina to change drastically. I don't care for that. I don't care for over legislation, and that's what's happening here. Over legislation, taxes. Our sales tax is 10%. It's higher than New York. Kind of crazy. Hi, Professor. Good to have you. My sympathies and prayers on the death of Senator Graham. Mine too. I mean, I don't want anybody to think that I'm speaking ill of the dead. I'm not. But you know that I am sincere when I talk about, and I'm honest when I talk about people. Lindsey Graham became part of the swamp. I don't like that. All right. We're in Hormuz. We're bombing the hell out of Hormuz. This changed since I put it up, but let's listen to what President Trump wanted to do yesterday.
The USA will be, from this point forward, known as the guardian of the Hormuz Strait. The president shared in a Truth Social post this morning, continuing, but as such, and as a matter of fairness, will be reimbursed at the rate of 20% on all cargo shipped. This charge is explained as a protection fee for eligible cargo seeking passage through the volatile petroleum choke point. Iran's targeting of commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz is what led to the collapse of last month's memorandum of understanding.
They're taking over the strait. They have nothing. They've got nothing.
3 weeks ago, Trump administration members, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, blasted Iran for seeking to monetize the waterway.
No country is allowed to charge tolls or fees on an international waterway. I don't think we have anybody to convince around here in that regard. I think all the countries in this region would agree with us.
Today, Iran's foreign minister, attempting to capture irony, wrote, "The president of the United States is absolutely right," stating he agrees that a country guaranteeing safe passage deserves compensation, arguing Iran has always been the guardian of the strait and will remain so forever. 20% is, of course, too much. We will be fair. In terms of where negotiations stand, President Trump tells Fox that an 11-hour meeting with mediators yesterday ended in an agreement, only for it to fall apart when the Iranians called back wanting changes.
We are the guardian of the strait. We are guaranteeing safe passage. He pulled back on the 20%. And, when I heard it, I said to my husband, this reminds me of the scene in Godfather 2, where, what's his name, had the olive oil company, and he started charging the people on Mott Street, to protect them from the bad guys. Trump the mafioso. I mean, why not? Right? He grew up in notorious Queens, where the mob ruled, and where Teflon Don, I gave protection out. But I thought it was funny as hell. Difference, right? Difference of us protecting them from Iranian bombs and drones, where Iran tried to be funny, and they want to collect so they don't bomb you. But either way, I think that we all have to agree that it has to be, the Strait has to be free. Nobody controls it. At this moment, we're monitoring it to make sure that the bad guys don't try and control it. But we need to see some presence. France has a big navy. England has a big navy. That's what they're known for. Why aren't they working with us there? They should be doing that. Right now, it seems that our biggest ally in the whole Middle East thing is the other Egyptian nations and Ukraine. Ukraine has been helping us with the drone technology. Very interesting what's going on and how this is all panning out. Ramon says, I may disagree a few things with Lindsey Graham politically, but I pay for respect when it comes to issues. But my heart goes out to his family out of respect. Rest in peace, Senator Lindsey Graham. Agreed, 100%. He was a decent and good and moral man. He was certainly. Trump pulled back his statement on the fees. Yes, he did. Because, Marco, he was out there, he realized what he did. And that's what I love about him. He shoots from the hip, and sometimes he shoots himself in the toe, and, then he's like, all right, well, never mind. Wasn't there a girl on Saturday Night Live? I forgot, Rosanna, right? And she would come on and she would get all like pissed off over something, a news report, and she'd start screaming and carrying on. And then they correct her. I think it was Chevy Chase would correct her and say, no, it was this, not that. Oh, never mind. I think it was Rosanna Dana. Santillion, over here in Hawaii, they tax the crap out of us on everything. Governor Green signed a bill to ban all vapor smoke devices by January 2027. I really don't care. I do, because you know why I care, Santillion? Because those vape devices have saved so many young people from smoking tobacco. And they have helped people who have COPD and were smokers, because they may not be the best thing for you, but they were far better for you than cigarettes. And there's plenty of studies to show it. Now teen smoking is up again since they started targeting these vapes. It's crazy. Ramon says, rest in peace, Sam Neill. Grew up watching him Jurassic Park. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love Sam Neill. He's classically good looking. Good guy. Oh, really? England has no working navy? Since when? Wait. Oh, I know I look like an idiot. Is it France that has a navy? Did I get that confused? Wait, British Royal Navy. Did they stop? Are you telling me they dismantled their navy? Of course they did. That's why they're pussies now. Of course they did. It's okay for adults, but little kids have them. Yeah, but now they're going to have cigarettes. And that's what the tobacco company is hoping for. That we're talking about the vapes. Okay. Yeah, that's right. The British got rid of their navy. Yeah. When they got rid of their balls. Okay. Let's talk about the DSA, who wants to get rid of the president and the Senate and are winning races all over the place. Yeah. Let's hear from Jillian Michaels.
The DSA is the largest socialist organization in the United States, with tens of thousands of dues-paying members and hundreds of chapters in almost every major metro area. Now, most of us hear democratic socialist and we think of Scandinavian-style welfare states, higher taxes, more safety nets, free education, and health care. But DSA's platform goes much further and is much darker than that. Economically, the DSA wants social ownership of the major industries that run American life: energy, housing, finance, and even tech. So in plain terms, they want to strip control and profit away from private owners and investors and hand it to the state, to worker ownership and community co-ops. And while this may sound like a utopia, Venezuela ran this exact experiment on energy, and its oil industry was privately held until 1976, until the government nationalized it and created a state company called PDVSA to take full control. And to make a long story short, it was a disaster that left a country sitting on the largest oil reserves on Earth, defined by blackouts and fuel lines. And on top of that, DSA calls for a 32-hour work week at full pay, universal Medicare, free college, mass student debt cancellation, and universal child care, turning basic services into guaranteed rights funded by this more collectively controlled economy. France tried that, a mandatory 35-hour work week in 2000, and they sold it as more time off for the same pay. But of course, it didn't work. A parliamentary committee found that the policy cost France more than $13 billion a year. And the IMF found that it failed to create jobs and actually reduced employment for the workers that it covered. So the French didn't get more leisure time and the same paycheck. They ended up with higher costs and fewer jobs. Within just a few years of this, by the way, lawmakers were already dismantling it. Quebec ran the closest thing to DSA's child care policy, government-subsidized care for every family. Decades in, the wait list for a subsidized spot topped 50,000 kids. And numerous studies found that the program produced measurably worse outcomes for kids. More hyperactivity, more aggression, more anxiety. This is what happens when you let the state raise your children. Universal, by the way, didn't mean accessible, and free didn't mean better. It meant a government-run system that couldn't keep up with the demand it created, while the families it was supposed to help waited for years for a spot. And that's the pattern with every plank in the list, from free college, debt cancellation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So there you go. They want everything free, but nothing is free. And you know, what the DSA is damn silly assholes. That's what they are. They're children, and every single one of them are children throwing a tantrum. And you know, they want mommy and daddy to pay for everything. It's sad. It's sad, but they're winning. It's very sad. Ramon says Iran has to be dealt with, while anti-war protesters are wimps. Well, it's true, and I think that Trump is doing the right thing. Listen. Do I wish he would have put an end to it and stopped negotiating? Yes. Did I think that he could do it without trying to negotiate? No, because he's Trump and he does believe that there's always a price. But these people don't have a price. And I think that he needs to stop even talking to them anymore. He just needs to keep on bombing and be done and never go back to the negotiating table because they're liars. DSA is popping up here in Hawaii lately. They're everywhere. Go look at their website. Very scary. Very scary that so many young people feel they need a daddy and a mommy that's not their daddy and mommy. The only thing the DSA is doing is giving more wins to Republicans. I don't know that that is so, Ramon. I don't know. Do you notice, did you see that Maine, all of a sudden, another migrant was killed in Maine by ICE, and now there's big protests out there. That's the that was where Plattner, right, was running, and I'm wondering if these people are martyring themselves for the cause, because that's what the Muslims do, right? The Muslims martyr themselves for the cause. They blow themselves up and take the infidels with them. And we know that the DSA, the people behind the DSA, there's a lot of Muslim influence in the DSA. And I'm just wondering if they are martyring themselves for a cause, for the cause, because it's just interesting that the situation occurred in Maine. It's interesting that the situation occurred in Minnesota while the investigations were ongoing with Ilhan Omar and the people in Minnesota. I'm just wondering if these things are setups. I mean, the Good and Purdy, that was weird that they just kept on pushing the boundaries. And I mean, Purdy had a gun on him. Why would you go to a protest with a gun? And Good tried to run over the officers. So I don't think that there are coincidences. And I think that ICE has been playing into it, not believing that these people would actually martyr themselves for the cause. But we see that happens. Look at what the mothers in the Muslim mothers who are sending their kids into with bombs strapped to them and praising them, for blowing themselves up for the cause. It really is. It's a very, very, very strange and terrible thing that's going on right now. Let's see. Kevin says England has neglected their navy, as has Australia, but we are picking up a bit now. Google says that England has a navy with aircraft carriers and all kinds of things, yada, yada, yada. So isn't it interesting? I mean, I know that you guys are right, but Google is making it like England's navy is mighty. We have to get the DSA dismantled once MAGA wins. Yeah, well, we do. Well, we do. And we have to find the right messaging, because people need to know that, remember when the Democrats were saying that Trump was a threat to democracy? No, DSA is a threat to the Constitution of the United States. They are undermining the Constitution, not Donald Trump. So we need to make sure that people understand that. It's called communism, and it will fall. From your mouth to God's ears, Ramon. DSA has always been a hidden thing here in Hawaii until the boomers became brainwashed by TV and newspaper information. I could see that, because Hawaii has always, anywhere where there's a tribal influence, Australia, Hawaii, Alaska, the Native American, the Indian resident, the Native American nations, Indian nations, they have a kind of communist mentality. So I'm not surprised, Santillian, that Hawaii would embrace it. University students are completely brainwashed here. I think that's everywhere, even in South Carolina. It's the nature of it. As a matter of fact, we'll listen to Laura Ingraham talking about it. This is why there should be an investigation on the DSA and their ties to and their connections. I mean, I think that we know that it's Neville Roy Singham, but we're in America. See, that's the thing. We're in America. This stuff is allowed. Free speech, the First Amendment, it's allowed. So how do you defeat it? You've got to make sure that's why the Republicans want options for education. They want charter schools. They want school choice. That's why we want it. Let's see. Lorraine, I am convinced migrants commit crimes for 3 hots and a cot, especially in sanctuary cities. I agree with you. The American people have spoken that they want the Save America Act passed and goes straight to President Trump's desk. Well, that good for the American people. Guess what? They can't do it in time for this election. So we're fucked, right? See, that's the problem, because the swamp is still there. And Thune and, with all respect, Graham, they were part of it. They stopped it. Make communism against the law here. Well, it is against, well, you can't, I don't think that there could be a law against a form of government. You understand? So let's listen to Laura Ingraham. I like this clip. It's long, and we're going to go over tonight, but I like this clip. Watch.
Diana DeGette has served in Congress since 1997, but 29-year-old Milat Kiros beat DeGette in the Colorado primary last night. It's the latest swing to the left by the Democratic Party.
We will not wait to abolish ICE and pass Medicare for all. We will not wait to put an end to the politics of the past, to get big money out of our politics, and to reject corporate tax. And no, we will not wait to end the genocide in Palestine.
Here's how Politico Playbook described Milat Kiros' win over Diana DeGette last night. Quote, PhD student and part-time barista with no political experience taking on a 30-year member of Congress who outraised her 2-1. This socialist red tide was described by many Democrat analysts and specialists who I think were more hopeful than anything. It was described as a New York-only phenomenon. Clearly, it is not that.
It is communism, Laura. This is not, this is not raising taxes a little bit, however much we might disagree with that. This is abolishing the police. This is let criminals run amok in your cities. This is flood your country with low-wage third world immigrants. And importantly, it's confiscating wealth, not because we want to make anybody's life better, but purely out of resentment.
Will Republicans get through to voters with that kind of messaging, Laura?
Oh, I think so. I mean, look, you had Chris Murphy the other day, a senator from my home state of Connecticut, say, well, I might not agree with everything, essentially, but they're bringing a lot of energy to the party, and capitalism really hasn't worked in many ways for many people. I say to my old Connecticut Yankees, Colt Manufacturing, Pratt Whitney Aircraft, Electric Boat, Sikorsky, Otis Elevator, all the great manufacturing history of Connecticut. Now all the hedge funders and all the private equity guys who commute in from New York and live in Greenwich, are they ready to have their wealth confiscated and the end of capitalism? How is that going to work out for Connecticut? So I think in the end, a lot of Democrats may think, oh, this is great energy, but in the end, people vote with their feet. They're going to leave a lot of these jurisdictions, and this will be a short-lived phenomenon that I think could actually propel the Republicans to victories they might otherwise have really had to fight for.
Yeah, capitalism hasn't worked for some people, but socialism hasn't worked for anyone.
Anyone. Thank you, John.
There's always that choice as well. Hey, so again, this was seen as a New York-only phenomenon, but take a look at this. The number of far-left candidates who have won primary elections this year. I mean, that's enough to fill up a wall. That is a full 28-member MLB team roster. And what's interesting is that, back in the 1960s, there was a socialist surge, but no overtly socialist candidates ever were elected to Congress. This time around, things are far different because these people really want to shape the Democratic agenda.
Yeah, and I think the difference between like the 70s, where you had a lot of these anti-American movements crop up across the country, and a lot of them were supported by the old Soviet Union, remember. There was a lot of influx of support there. But you're right, John. I think now there's such a deeply embedded sense of anti-Americanism that has been inculcated in our schools. That has really had a profound effect. Republicans have been talking about school choice and revamping education for years, but the left's stranglehold on our public schools, many of our private institutions, our universities, then the influx of immigrants. A lot of these candidates are new, are either the children of new immigrants, like of course from Ethiopia or Uganda with Mamdani, Ethiopia with Kiros. So they come to this country, and it's not like the old days where you come here to love the country, you come here to be American. You come here to dismantle America.
I saw a lot of white men in that board. Isn't that interesting? They're supposed to be against that toxic male masculinity. This whole DSA thing, as she said rightly, that in the 70s, that whole commune stuff, the communism stuff, that was pushed by Russia at the time to deflate America. Now it's being pushed by China for the same purpose. So, yeah, we have a problem. Kevin says, shut the colleges down. They teach it and violence. Again, free choice. You can't, it took a long time for this to occur, and we have all been complicit in it. So we have to take ownership of what we have created. We all fell into the trap. Our kids must go to college. We all fell into that trap. That took a long time, college fund, save money for college. We have it now, right? You can't, you have to have college to be competitive. Now, an electrician is making more than that woman, that PhD student is a part-time barista. And she beat a 29-year incumbent. Well, I'm glad the 29-year incumbent is out, frankly. But she's a barista. So, but she's a PhD student. See how those go together? But you can't say we're going to get rid of the colleges. What we have to do is change the mindset of the parents. We have to change the mindset. The people who are unhappy with America right now are all these kids who went to college and think that they are owed something and didn't get anything because they don't want to work. They all want to be social media influencers. We need to get back to morality. We need parents to start teaching kids. There is a big segment of the population that is going back to traditional roles, and that's good. And I think that that will help a lot of people. And now there's a big segment of the population that are doing blue collar work. They're going, the vocational schools are filling up because people, it's better to be a plumber or an electrician than it is to be a professor. And I think that we have to make that so. We have to get rid of the government-made jobs, and we have to encourage the private sector jobs. Kevin Wall says, I watched a John Wayne movie once when he tracked down and arrested American communists. I guess it was a thing back in the day. Yeah, this has been going on since the Joe McCarthy era, right? Since the 1950s. This has been happening since the 40s. Since the whole Hitler thing, World War II, America was sat on their laurels for a long time. The Jews in America were telling FDR not to get involved, telling FDR not to get involved. It's like history repeating itself. It's weird, very weird. Kevin says communism with an advantage for radical Muslims to start a jihad here. Then we all need to have guns for a civil war with communists and Muslims. But you're right. And we do have guns because our Second Amendment protects our right to do that. But you see how they're trying to get rid of it. That's the first thing that they did. That's the first thing they did in Germany. That's the first thing they did in Cuba. So that's what they do all the time. I mean, you could go back to, look at Chavez. Look at what he did. Look at what's his name from Cuba? Oh God, why can't I think of his name? What can I think of his name? Castro. You look at Maduro. I mean, they first take your weapons. Look at Iran. Look at what happened in Iran 47 years ago. They know what they're doing. This game has been played over and over again. The only people who seem to be asleep at the wheel are our kids because we don't teach history. All right. I'm going to let Laura Ingraham have the last word here only because it's too fucking funny. It's about Kamala Harris.
Axios with this headline, Harris reaches out to Mamdani, pro-Palestinian activist and run up to 2028. Harris and her team have also been reaching out to pro-Palestinian activists during the past year, including at least one who helped lead the Uncommitted movement, which grew out of opposition to former President Biden's policy on the war in Gaza. Is Kamala Harris making a comeback?
Oh, no. Kamala Harris is being Kamala Harris. I mean, she's never had an original idea in her life. She's always blown with the wind. There's no philosophical underpinning of the woman who is Kamala Harris. She was a creation out of San Francisco politics, and she rode a wave. And she rode a wave to the White House as vice president, was a disastrous vice president, was even a more disastrous presidential candidate, and she's still trying to babble her way through interviews. I mean, I this is what I'm saying. I think the Democrats should go all in. nominate AOC in 2028, and let's have this argument once and for all. Freedom and capitalism and American sovereignty, or socialism and redistribution and open borders. Let's have that debate, because I know who's going to win that debate, and it ain't going to be AOC.
So it seems, at least for the time being, a lot of establishment Democrats are kind of whistling past the graveyard about this insurgency. Listen to this short little montage.
Yeah.
We have a Big Ten party. That's what it says.
I'm all about new leadership. I don't agree with all their positions, but I respect what the voters have done in New York. That's not reflected in the entire country. Every district determines who they want. We may not like it.
Wait, Van Hollen cracks me up, guys, because I mean, these people couldn't get rid of Kristen Sinema fast enough, right? Bob Casey, pro-life, like they're not big enough of a tent to accommodate anyone who is pro-life. And they will try to dump John Fetterman as fast as they can. So the idea that these people are big tent, you know what they are? They're scared. They don't have any solutions for the American people. Their ideas have failed. They're celebrating Obama's library. You know what his legacy is? Donald J. Trump.
I love that line. You know what Obama's legacy is? Donald J. Trump. Fantastic. Also, I love how she got stuck on the word blown when she was talking about Kamala. Yeah, I mean, Kamala Harris is a creation, but so is Obama. Obama was a creation, and he was the first one. That's what the experiment. It started with him. They handpicked him for Senate, and then they hopscotched over Hillary for president. Yeah, this is all part of the same cabal. All part of the same people who want to destroy America. Let's see. Kevin Young says today, she's a creation. Kevin Wall says all of these far left politicians are programmed. They are. They're there for a reason. That reason is to undermine America, without a doubt. So what do we do about it? Well, we need to make sure that our young people understand what socialism is. And if they're not going to teach them in school, then we have to teach them here on social media, everywhere we can. Pick clips, post them up on social media. Castro, Cuba, right, Venezuela, Hitler. I mean, everybody is promised, Iran, everybody was promised everything, and nothing was ever delivered in communism and socialism. So that's our show for today. Young says Harris is a bimbo. She sure is. It's a babbling bimbo. That's our show for today. Farewells and fair plays. Fair plays in Hormuz, and fair plays for us. We need to trump the DSA, no pun intended. And we need to get rid of them. People need to understand that they're the ones that are undermining the Constitution. So thank you very much. If you're new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. Please, please, please. I need 118 more for that golden moment, that 1,000. And it is amazing how YouTube has just killed my algorithm. I used to get, 3 or 4 new subscribers a week, and now I get nothing. They changed the whole way they do things on YouTube, and it's not benefiting political commentators who are to the right. So, but I love you. Thank you all for joining. Like and subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, and come back and see me tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Yes, good night. Remember Trump Thursday night speech, isn't it? I think it's at 9. So it should be right after us. If I don't run long, I won't run long. Or we can maybe watch it together. Let's think about that. Maybe we will. All right. See you tomorrow.